Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. A very warm welcome to anyone who's new to this channel. If you are new, this channel is about the teachings of a very interesting man named Bruno Groening. If you'd like to know more about him, you can check out the website that's in the chat box or in the link below this video. So it's Easter, or at the making of this video, Easter is concluding. The sun is starting to set, and what is Easter really all about? How to celebrate it? These are some things that have been on my mind today. I think the thing that's most on my mind is what Easter used to be for me and what it is now. So what it used to be was just another holiday. I didn't take it particularly seriously, didn't really know what to think of it. I left organized Christianity at the age of 18 and then went on a bit of a spiritual journey and didn't really know what to make of Easter. And then I found Bruno Groening and experienced healings in my own body and really experienced the truth of the words that for God, nothing is impossible. And so after finding Bruno's teachings, Easter took on a new meaning for me. It was a time to really reflect on the limitless power of God. And not just the limitless power of God is something that's like abstract, like God is really limitless. Like, look how big the universe is. God is limitless. But to make it much more personal, that the limitless power of God is available to help me, is available to help all of us. You know, Bruno Groening once said that what he was sharing was just ancient knowledge that had been lost. And Bruno said a lot of things. He gave a lot of speeches, and we're very lucky that we have many of them, recordings of them. But what's the essence of it? Well, there's many ways to say it, and I sometimes think there's these different ways to say what was the essence of Bruno's teaching from a different angle. But the angle I'm really feeling connected to and focused on today is that God and the power of God are actively available. And let me say this, are available and very active in our lives, moment by moment, that help, not just on the spiritual path, not just in healing, but help in every aspect of life. Like it's right there, and it's up to us to take it in. You know, when I first learned this teaching, people talked about the Heilstrom and the healing stream, but as I started to read Bruno's teachings, what I found is, yes, he did use the word Heilstrom, but he also used the word the current, the divine power, the divine transmission, the healing wave. Well, he used all these different words to talk about. The one I currently am really enjoying is the divine transmission, because it brings to mind this idea of God constantly sending goodness to us. And that it becomes our job to then open to it and take it in. And also our job to empty ourselves, free ourselves, give away anything that gets in the way of that. And that can be something big like a negative habit, but that can be something small as catching one single negative thought. I was going out grocery shopping today, and I don't know why, but as I was driving there, like negative thought after negative thought. And then when I went out to the grocery store, it's just all these negative judgment thoughts, and I caught them one at a time and gave them away. It was a little bit of a battle. It was like the negative side would send me a negative thought, and I'd be like, nope. And then it would send another one, I'd be like, nope. Like 20 or 30 negative thoughts within a period of like 7 minutes. So it's our job to keep ourselves clean and clear and receptive to the divine, to this energy. So here's a beautiful quote of Bruno's. He said, "The helping hand extends everywhere, reaches everywhere." I have to say this again, that there are no limits for God in this respect. This can be so hard for us as human beings to comprehend. Limitlessness. It's almost, as I say the word, limitlessness. It's so foreign. It's so foreign in our day-to-day life. All day long, we're up against limits. Having a human body, being here on the earth, limit. Time, energy, money, All day long, we're faced with limits. In some ways, it's one of the fundamentals of being a human being. Like right here, right now, I'm here in this room, so I'm not in the other room. I'm here, so I'm not with my friends. Like, so it can be a bit tricky to really take to heart that God has no limits. But for me, that's what Easter is about. It's the Christian celebration of the resurrection of Christ. Of really the supreme healing. I won't say supreme healing, but just an unfathomable, to us human beings, an unfathomable occurrence. The dead coming back to life. So before Bruno Groening, I didn't know what to think about the resurrection of Jesus. And now I'm utterly convinced that it's absolutely possible. I don't know. I wasn't there. I have faith that it is what happened. I can't say for sure I wasn't there. But what I can say with absolute certainty, based on my own experience of having healings in my own body, is it's absolutely possible that the power of God is stronger than even death. So that's what Easter is for me today. And of course, that's very dramatic. raising of a dead body coming back to life. But I'd like to share my favorite healing that I've heard connected to Bruno Groening. And I cannot remember this man's name. He was a German man. He was in World War II. And he'd experienced a very intense traumatic experience. And after the war was over, every night, I can almost remember his name, like Oppen. Yeah. Every night, he would relive this horrible experience in his dreams. Every night. It went on for something like 30 years. Can you imagine having the same nightmare every night? And he found out about the teachings of Bruno Groening, and he pleaded, please, Bruno, take this from me. And so the nightmare, so he was a German soldier, and the nightmare involved something that happened between the Germans and the Russians. And so one night, the nightmare started again. It was something about the Germans were in a town and the Russians were coming in. Except the dream then changed. This time it was different. Instead of the horrible, traumatic experience that this poor man had had, and then had replayed over and over, the Germans and the Russians in the dream sat down together at a table and had a meal together. It brings tears to my eyes. Such a profound healing. And that was the end. That was the end of that recurring nightmare. And this person was freed from that burden. So all of us come to the teachings of Bruno Groening for different reasons. I certainly came for physical healing. And now I continue on this path for many reasons. One of them is, I believe Bruno taught the truth, not just about how to heal the body, but how to live life and how to become ultimately free from all problems, all challenges. But whatever your burdens are, and I've come to realize if you're a human being in a body, you have burdens. Unless you're some kind of spiritual master, we all have burdens and challenges here in this life. Whatever your burdens or challenges are, here on this day of Easter, here on this day of victory, celebration of victory over death, of you could say showing. Bruno said spirit rules over matter. Well, here's a pretty powerful example of spirit ruling over matter. A dead body coming back to life. But that was 2,000 years ago in a distant land. But the power of God is still very active and available. And the power of spirit over matter is very beautifully demonstrated by this former German soldier who was relieved of quite a heavy burden. So I'll read that quote of Bruno's again. The helping hand of God reaches everywhere. I stress this again, that there are no limits for God in this regard. Because I was taught God was far and away. Bruno teaches that God is closer than close. And not just close, but available. It's not like God just made the universe and then stepped outside and left us alone in it. But that God is closer than close. And helpers such as Bruno are here by our side. Bruno said, I am and will stay with you always. And it's written that Christ said something similar. I believe it by memory. Lo, I am with you until the end of days. So let's face it, life is not easy. The earth school is not easy. In fact, Bruno said that it's supposed to be that way so that we can learn to differentiate between what's good and what's not good and to face challenges and overcome them. And so that's a pretty idea, but let's be honest. Sometimes it's very hard, but we're not doing it alone. We have friends such as Bruno Groening, such as Christ, with us. Who are passing along the unlimited, the limitless power of God. So let's just spend a little time in silence, taking in this limitless power, wanting it. Bruno spoke about you have to want the good, have to engage our will. Let's really engage the will to take this in, to take in what God is always sending. So at the beginning, I talked about the things that block us from the divine current, the divine transmission. It seems to me that resentment and judgment of others is one of the prime suspects. And Bruno spoke about this. He said, never be angry with anyone. If you're angry with someone, you've already taken on evil and you'll take in more. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's the essence of what he said. So let's make a firm determination to forgive. Now, forgiveness is tricky. It can be a very intense subject for some people. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we have to go hang out with the person. If someone's abusive, it doesn't mean we're going to go, set ourselves up to be abused again. But Bruno gives a very powerful means to help us to forgive, to understand that if someone has done something wrong or is doing something wrong, they're literally under the spell of evil. They're literally being controlled by Satan. Bruno Groening pointed out that we human beings are inherently good, but that goodness can get covered over when we unknowingly say yes to evil, to negativity. And then it clings to us, and he said literally seizes control. So let's firmly, and a beautiful thing to do is make a list of people you feel resentful towards, and then start forgiving them, start praying for them, start cultivating the awareness that if they've done wrong, it's because they were under the spell of evil. Now, forgiveness doesn't preclude or exclude any specific action. It's about freeing ourselves. If someone's done us harm, sometimes there's things we need to do to take care of ourselves. Sometimes we need to respond or protect ourselves from future harm. But one way we also need to protect ourselves from future harm is to free ourselves from resentment. It's a poison. Here's a beautiful quote about resentment is, resentment is the poison that I drink trying to harm you. It's toxic, and Bruno straight up said it's evil. So praying for those who have harmed us is very practical in the sense of if someone's done something wrong, they need help. But if we're feeling resentful, we need help. And also, if we're resentful, we've forgotten. Anyone who's resentful has forgotten how evil operates and how we human beings operate. Guillermo, wow, long time no. Welcome back. Happy Easter to you, brother. So I'm currently doing something. So I've talked a lot on this channel about the 12 steps because they're so in line. And again, not the 12-step movement, but the actual 12 steps. They're so in line with Bruno's teachings, and they so just summarize the teachings of Christ. And now I'm exploring that which preceded the 12th step, called the Oxford movement. It's about 4 things: surrendering to God, make God in charge of your life, sharing with another person all your sins, all the places you've fallen short, making amends for those sins, and then seeking God's will in every decision. Very simple, very straightforward. Not easy, but very powerful. And so many people say, oh, God doesn't exist because I don't feel God, or I don't get guidance, or I haven't gotten a healing. Well, Bruno Groening said, actually, I think I'll read a quote of his. You cannot receive anything if I want to put something in your hand, but your hand is full and what you have is bad. If you do not give it up, I cannot give you the good. It will fall on the ground and you will then not have received it. So we need to let go of and give away the things that are bad. But the first thing is we need to be aware of what's bad. And a great way to do that is just to make a list of the things you've done that have harmed others and get humble and share it with someone else. It's a process I'm engaged in. It's very powerful. You don't have to share it with someone else. You can share it with God or with Bruno. But Bruno called us to self-examination, because then the question is, so the presence of God, the power of God, the guidance of God, always showering down upon us. So what's blocking it? It always comes back to us. Bruno was very firm on this matter, that we are the cause of all of our own problems. Guillermo wrote, "You're an inspiration for many. You are constant and dedicated to Bruno, thus far for us." Thank you. I strive to be dedicated to God and to follow the path that Bruno taught. Some days, some weeks, some months, I fall short, but I keep on striving. See, the thing is Bruno Groening taught a path. And a spiritual path has ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and it's challenging. It's not and then everything's fixed. Not in my experience. I haven't met anyone who that's been the case. It's about facing challenges and overcoming them. Bruno Groening himself said, "You cannot fathom the amount of temptation I have had to face." So even Bruno Groening was constantly tempted to a degree we can't even imagine. But he overcame and he said, "I am stronger than evil." And so until each one of us has fully overcome evil, we can turn to a friend like Bruno who has and ask for their help. So let's conclude with a little more silent time. Welcoming the peace. That's another thing that Bruno spoke. Bruno called people to call in, to welcome the peace. Let me see if I can find this. I was so surprised to read. I'd never heard him express it that way. He said, "But when you take in the divine peace, health will be restored to your body." Well, that's basically what he said. So let's take in the divine peace. The heavenly peace, he called it. The Bible calls it the peace that passes all understanding. And let it restore order to our minds, our hearts, our bodies, and our lives. You're welcome, Natty. Thank you, and thank you everyone who comes by this channel. Sharing Bruno's teachings has been one of the greatest blessings and greatest joys of my life. So I'd like to wish everyone a happy Easter, a happy celebration of the victory of God over everything. That truly nothing is impossible for God. In fact, Bruno Groening said, God is nothing impossible. That's a pretty mind-blowing statement right there. Thank you so much for joining in. Yes, even over death. And Bruno was very adamant to remind us that we don't die, just the body dies. But that there is no death for what we are. And we are a soul with a spirit, and we've been given a body. That we're on quite a vast journey. And thank you for joining me for this part of that journey. Have a beautiful day, angels. And again, happy Easter. Happy victory over death. Happy there are no limits for God, the power of God. Take care.